guys, today we're going to be making a card for a young boy, and as you can see I've got some really funky fun papers. I thought it'd be really nice to do some really bright colours, and really these papers came as a result of my image, and the image was a stamped image that a digi-stamp that I purchased. I believe it was from the digi-stamp store. So here's the stamp, and obviously I've coloured that all in. I thought this isn't going to be a Stamp It Sunday video, so I thought that I would pre-colour it. And as you can see, I've fussy cut that to really quite tight round the image. Now his neck was quite thin, so although you probably can't see very well, you can just see there I put an extra piece of card just across the back there along his neck to keep it nice and strong. And the black that you can see all around the edges was basically, I took a little dauber of black ink and I just literally went like this very carefully so that it didn't go underneath, because when you cut out an image that you've stamped, it really works well to make it look finished and almost as if you haven't cut it out, to take those white edges off where the cut line is. And then just to finish it off, I added some little white highlights and I put a word, the start of the word skate, on his cap. And the colouring here, I just used all pro markers actually on this one. Okay, so let's put him to one side and let's show you what we've done. So we've done a bit of cutting and sorting already to try and just get this card moving so that we're actually on the construction part. So what I've got first of all is I took a piece of hunky dory cardstock. This is the Adorable Scoreable cardstock, and it was actually A4, but I cut it to 10 inches across here by 7 inches here, and then I scored it at the 5 inches, folded in half to make a 7 by 5 card, and it's actually going to be a landscape card. And unusually, if you've watched my videos regularly, I've put the coloured part of the card on the outside and left the inside white. So we will be decorating the inside, but I actually do want to use the blue as part of my border, so that's why we've got that there. I then cut two layers of the green and yellow. So it came from this gorgeous Martha Stewart Essentials paper pack. Ignore the one on the front there, that's just an extra piece that I just slotted in for something else. And it comes with some really lovely papers. As you can see, it's got some gorgeous glitters, some lovely mirror card. This is not mirror card, it's just a real high gloss. And then you've got some plain papers, which is what I was using, and then this pattern paper was the one I used, and I love that because it's got, I don't know if you can catch it, it's got some glittery bits, some shiny ones, and I just love that colour. And the same with this, again, I don't know if you can really catch that in this light as well, but the colours are amazing and fun, and it's just a really, really nice card. It's a really good weight as well, it's not thin. I'm not sure if it's heavy enough quite to make a card on its own. Anyway, so that's the paper pack that I used. So I then cut I took a sheet of the yellow, a sheet of the green, a sheet of blue, a sheet of the red, and then that dotty paper. So from the yellow I cut a piece of cardstock that was 6 7/8 across, so basically 1/8 down from your 7 inches, and the same for the 5 inches, it was 1/8 down, so that would be 4 7/8 for that. So that was for that one. And then, so let's stick that down actually. So I'm just going to use my Scotch adhesive here. So then the next thing that I cut was the green layer, and I cut that to let's think, 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and I then put it through the new Sue Wilson Creative Expressions embossing folders, and it's this one here. And so I ran it through, and on this occasion, I don't know if you can catch it, but I did it on the deboss. If you can see on this side, it's embossed, i.e. sticking up, but the deboss is when it's poking down the pattern, and I just thought that would be a bit different. And the reason I went for this design is I didn't think it was too girly, but it was kind of in keeping with the circles of the whole theme. Now, because we've got the emboss on the side that I'm going to stick down, I am going to use my glue gel. Now, I'm not going to be using it as to give height or anything, but just because we have got very slightly different levels on our cardstock here. So let me just bring that up. Can you just see? You've got your blue, your yellow, and now your beautiful green. So I found this lovely washi tape, which I think is really, really nice with it's actually clear dots, which is really cool, because then you put it on the green, it comes out with the green dots coming through, or whatever colour you put it on. But what I didn't want was actually the green dots to show through. I wanted it to be really red. So what I did was I took a piece of the red cardstock from that Martha Stewart pack that we had. So there was a piece of that, and I took that and I stuck a piece of the washi tape onto there. I measured it out to the 7 inches wide, and then I just used my paper trimmer and I cut it each side to match up, and this is what we ended up with. Now I think that's where I want it. However, before I want it straight, obviously. Before I pop that down, what I next need to just play around with and check is where my next elements are going to sit, because that determines exactly where my little border. So what I did was I took these two dies from Spellbinders, and it's Labels 1 and Labels 1 Small. Now if I just move this out the way a moment and open this up for you, what I want to show you is these are rather like your card creator dies, in that on their own these are about a 1/4 inch difference if you use this one set. If you then take the Labels 1 Small, they're also about a 1/4 inch between each of them. However, if you use them together, what you end up with is about an 1/8 of an inch gap. They actually sit alternately between each other. So if you get both packs of your label ones, then it really gives you much more versatility, because I don't know about you, but most of the time I want just an 1/8 of an inch. I don't want a big massive, I mean relatively massive 1/4 inch difference. I think that's even more noticeable in the boxes and things, but even with this I really didn't want that. So I just took the largest size from Labels 1 and the largest size from Labels 1 Small, and I cut out 2 pieces of paper. So I wanted my coloured paper at the front, so that I cut using my Labels 1 Small, and then I embossed it. So I don't know if you can just catch that. You'll probably see it better on this one. Here we go. And this nice blue, again, this is all from that Martha Stewart pack. I just cut from the Labels 1 die. So we end up with our 2 pieces that will sit like so, and it makes just a really nice board. Now, before we position our little fake ribbon, we're going to place our 2 labels together, then we can easily see exactly where we want that to be. So I'm just going to use my glue gel. Okay, so being careful with this piece, because obviously it could still move. We're going to be, I think I want this kind of here, because then that's in the middle of that circle there. or we could put it at the bottom of the circle, but I think that for pleasing on the eye, I think it's more even to put it in the centre of the circle. So let's just double check that that works, and yep, that's going to be fine. So let's just pop our label to one side, and then on this occasion I am going to again use my glue gel, and the reason is that we are sticking it onto an embossed, or in this case it's the debossed side, cardstock, and we don't want to have any gaps in our gluing. And I'm positioning that like so, making sure it's even, looking pretty straight. Just look from above if you're not sure, but I think that's pretty good. Just give it a gentle push just to make sure it's nicely stuck down. We're not trying to squish it all out or anything. So I think that looks great. Pleased with that. So then the next thing we want to do is put our little label on, and I'm just thinking about the placement of that. I'll explain why. I've got a little tag for here, and I've got a banner that I'm putting here as well, so I just need to be absolutely clear that there's going to be enough space. Now this one I want to be a little bit popped up, not crazy, but just a little. So we're just going to put some bigger blobs. Now I'm thinking it was about there, wasn't it? And then just give it a bit of a squidge, so it's not like ridiculously high in the air, because we're going to have to put our little chappy on, and also I've got this banner, as I say. Okay, so if I turn it to the side, you can see it's not like ridiculously high, it's just a small amount of depth there. Okay, so the next thing that I made was a little flag kind of tag, and I literally just cut this by hand, and I just cut it so it had that slight change in width. It is approximately 1.5 inches. Again, it's only rough. And then this one here I just cut just a tiny bit smaller basically, and then I stamped on it birthday, so that is going to go on there. So let's just glue that down now, so it's all ready to go in place. And then we're just using my Scotch quick dry here. There we go. So that's our little banner, and I just, again, I'm trying to bring in the red because I think that's important. Okay, and then the other thing that I did was I took this gorgeous set of dies. These are the tags and flags spellbinders dies, and I used these ones here, just these little flags, to make a banner. So I literally cut all 5 out, and we got these shapes here, and really cool. I really like these, and obviously I embossed them as well. I don't know if you can really see the embossing on that. And then I've got this gorgeous little stamp set by Studio G. To be honest, I really don't know who they are. I just picked it up in a local craft store. As you can see, some of them are upside down, but they're basically just little pegs and with letters, and you can just stamp. So we've got the word happy here. Now I did write on the back of this 1 and 2 on my P's, because I wanted to make sure, because I spent some time making sure the flags were, because they're not the same, so I took some time to make sure they were all the correct way round. Okay, so I have got some baker's twine in this kind of soft red, which I thought I would use. Hopefully this will work. My plan is to pierce 2 holes in each of them and then thread the baker's twine through in order to make my banner. Okay, so I think we want to put it up in this section here, just maybe there and here. Hopefully that'll work. So we've got our 2 holes in there, so let's carry on. So I'm just going to get my tool here and just gently give them a little bit of a curl. There we go. That's the theory anyway. There we go, that's one. So what I'm trying to do is curve down this end a little bit, like so, and then take the other end and curve it as well, so that it goes in kind of opposites, like a little wave. So let's just take the sharper edge on this one, and then like so. So if you can see from the side, it's got like a little wave, which is more like a flaggy thing. Hopefully, that's the theory. So that's those all curved up. Now the next trick is threading the thread. Okay, so I've just got a embroidery needle and I'm going to start with my H. So we want to come up through the first hole. And I'm just going to make sure there's enough left this side, so, and then down through the second hole, and then we want my A, that's a P, so we want the A next, so we want up and then down. Let's just move those along. And then what I'll do is when I've finished is I will glue these down onto the actual page, so it will look a lot, it will be a lot safer. So then I'm just going to cut about there at the moment, and that will be fine for what we're doing. Okie dokie, so let's bring our card back into play. Oops. Like so, and we want our banner. Let's get the letters up the right way. So we want it to be a little bit tighter than it is. Better. So we want it to sit just like so, I think. If we can get that to droop a little bit more. Of course, we'll get it in position and then we'll need to move it to stick it down. Hopefully we'll be able to do it without too much trouble. Okay, something like that. I think once we start sticking it, it'll be a heck of a lot easier. Okay, so I'm just going to use my glue gel and put that in there and pop that down. Yay! And if I do this end, then that will help, I think. That's the theory, anyway. Okay, and then these I want to kind of pull down in a kind of sort of semicircle like that. Yay! I like that. Okay, I am not going to cut the string off yet. I think I'm going to put some little bows at the end, but I will leave that until that's all dry, because otherwise, as tempting as it is, because I want to get it done, it's going to just pull it all over the place and I'm going to wreck it. And I know I want to do it and it's going to be really hard not to, but I'm going to try and be a good girl. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put the little birthday on, and obviously my little man. So let's see, where does he go? He's gonna be like that, I guess. I don't know about skateboarding. I don't know how they're supposed to look. Help me here, people. Stress. Okay, so let's take my little birthday, put a blob of glue on that. I think we should put a bit more on. I know it won't come off, but I don't like it when it's got... That's better. And then my tweezers. Am I being good today using my tweezers instead of blobbing it around with my fingers like I normally do? It was about there, wasn't it? There you go. Isn't it colourful? I do love it being so colourful. Now I've got to remember where he's being put. Now I've got to also remember is that that part is less glue than that section. So that'll be fun. Okay. So let's take my tool, let's move it back a bit. So it was that side. So that side is less glue. And I don't want it completely flat that side, so I am still putting some height, but we want a bit more height on this side. And then we better lift him up first, hadn't we? And then I'm going to move that forward. And then, I'm going to remember where I wanted him. I guess it's going to be there. Actually, it's not bad. Show him off a little bit. Hey! Have I shoved him up too high? Let's put him down a wee bit. How's that? Better? Yeah, better. I'm pleased with that. Okay, so I've still got to do my bows on there, and I thought I'd put something in this corner, like a couple of, like if I put, I know boys don't like pearls, so maybe some little buttons or something like that, just to finish that off, and I'll do that in all the corners. Okay, so I found these gorgeous red epoxy stickers, and I thought they would be fabulous for in the corners here, so I'm just going to stick those down. I'm going to use the ones that are already nicely stuck on the paper so that they definitely have stick, and I think that looks fab. I love the colour. There, Oops. So that's those, because I think that just balances it out. Actually, let's have a look. Yep, happy with that. And then I've done 2 little bows that I've made out of the string, and I used my little bow maker, so that's nice and easy. And I will then just cut off the excess of this string, but before doing that I think it would probably be not a bad idea to actually snip it, not completely off, just a little bit away from the end, and then take my little pokey tool here and just very carefully poke that into the glue gel so that it's gonna stay in place. Whoops. So we don't have it suddenly coming undone. And then that's nicely tucked in, and I can see it's just popped into that gel, so that's going to look fine. And then I was just looking at these little bows that I made, and I thought I'd just put one there and one the other end, and I think that will look really cute. So again, just using a very small amount of my glue gel, I'm going to use my little tool here, and I'm just going to pop a tiny bit in the corner here, like so, and take my tweezers and position that. I think that looks cool. And then we're just going to pop that in position like so. Okay, so that's that put on the inside, and so here is our finished card. I really like it. I think we've used lots of different processes here, you know, with the debossing stroke embossing. We've done our own cutting out to make a tag. We've used Spellbinder's dies to make our labels one and our tags. We've done what people tend to call fussy cutting. I personally think of it as a one layer decoupage, and obviously I coloured that, although you didn't see that. And we've got lots and lots of colour in this. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I hope you are too. Anyway, thank you for watching. I would love to hear your comments, and I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.